Dear viewers, welcome to this session of Geography Paper 1. So for today we have the topic of cyclones, okay? So we'll look at what a cyclone is and then also how it occurs. Then also we'll take some approach examination questions on cyclones. So let's get started. So we'll start with a temperate depression, or sometimes said to be a temperate cyclone. Okay, so a temperate depression or cyclone, we can define it as is an area of low pressure in the temperate latitude. It forms the circular shape of closed isobars. When shown on the map, the smallest isobars on the center represents the lowest pressure. Okay, so this is the actual representation. So we have the northern hemisphere. So now we have to notice that outside there is high pressure, okay? There is high pressure outside and then there is lower pressure inside. LP means lower pressure, okay? So in here, there is an anti-clockwise circulation of air, okay? So in here, the air basically goes inside in anti-clockwise form. So anti-clockwise is the opposing the direction of the clock, okay? Inside here. So the particular wind usually blows in this direction. Look at this, this direction, okay, which is opposite to the clockwise, okay, and clockwise, like that. So that's how the particular blow goes on, okay. So this is anti-clockwise rotation, okay. And then when it comes to southern hemisphere, so you have to notice these, okay. So in the southern hemisphere, the wind are deflected to to their left due to the clockwise rotation of air. So in here, there is clockwise, okay? So clockwise is this direction. So this is clockwise, okay? So there is clockwise in that dimension if we see from there. So in here, there is clockwise clockwise circulation of air. So outside there is high pressure. And then on the center there is low pressure. Okay, that's what happens, okay? So on the center there is low pressure and then outside there is higher pressure. Okay. So in here we call this as temperate depression. Sometimes we call it temperate cyclone. Okay, so on the other side also we can look at the actual movement. Okay, so we can say they remain quite stationary or move several hundred kilometers in a day. Okay, and then also winds blow inwards. Okay, into the regions of lower pressure. So we have to know that on the center there is lower pressure circulating in the anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. So that's what we have. Okay, and then also we can look at anticyclones. Okay, so anticyclones in definition, okay, we can define them to be this is an area of high pressure, okay, which when shown on the map has an oval circular shape of closed isobars. So I'll show you from the diagram, okay? The highest pressure is near the center, okay? So the center has high pressure opposite to the cyclone. So that's why these ones are said to be anticyclone, okay? So anticyclone develop in the region where the air is descending, okay, and the winds associated with it blow outwards. So this is the most important part. We have to know that winds blow outwards. Okay, in a cyclone, winds blow inwards. Okay, so you need to take note of these two differences. Okay, so there are two. The anticyclones, there are two. We have to know that the one that flows clockwise, for example, so that goes in the direction of the northern hemisphere, and in the anti-clockwise, okay, direction that is in the southern hemisphere. So you need to know the hemispheres where the cyclones they go to. So clockwise northern hemisphere and clockwise southern hemisphere. Okay, so let me show you the diagram. Okay, so this is one of the example diagram. So this diagram is representing the northern hemisphere. So see how they are circulating. So this is in a clockwise direction. Okay, so let's try to review. In a clockwise direction, we call it northern hemisphere, okay? So this is what we have. In the clockwise direction, if you see clockwise direction of air, We call it, then in that one is in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so this is how they are moving. And then also take note that lower pressure is outside, and then high pressure is on the center. So the pressure of wind moves from the center outwards in that way. So this is an anticyclone. We call this as an anticyclone. Okay. So the reflection of winds, the reflection of winds to the right of their path. So in here we have the isobars out. Okay. This is the anti-clockwise direction. So in an anti-clockwise direction, the particular wind blows opposite to the clockwise. Okay, so in this direction, so this is anti-clockwise. Okay, instead of going to this side, it's going to this side. Okay, so the arrow is pointing to this side, so this is anti-clockwise. So notice the arrows, okay, whenever you're answering these questions. Okay, so high pressure is always on the center, so the wind is moving outwards in that way. Okay, so we call this as the anticyclone. Okay, so the wind deflects to the right, to the left. So here the wind deflects to the right. So the right is to this side. So the wind is deflecting to the right. Here the wind is deflecting to the left. Okay, so we have to take note of these. These are important. Okay, so we have the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere. Okay, so let's look at some approachive questions. Okay, so I have this question from one sample paper. Okay, so this question is coming from 2019 November. Okay, that's where I took this question. Okay, if you check. So in here they went on to state which one of the following represents the cyclone, a cyclone in the southern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, which is a cyclone. Okay, so notice that a cyclone in the southern hemisphere, okay, it goes in a clockwise direction. So this is clockwise. Okay, this side clockwise. Okay, so it flows in a clockwise direction like that. Okay, and then these other ones, like for example, this is an anti-clockwise. Now this one is not a cyclone. This is an this is the anticyclone. Okay, so this one is a cyclone. Now this one is anti-clockwise. Okay, or let me just say this one is anti-clockwise. If you see it, it's anti-clockwise there. It's flowing anti-clockwise, but this one is flowing clockwise in that dimension. So our answer in our case, okay, which we can give this one. Okay, so this is when we review back from the first part there. So if you review back on a clockwise and clockwise, so this one is a clockwise. Okay, clockwise direction. And then let's try to see the other one. So our answer there, C. Okay, we now look at this question. So I'm taking this question from 2020. Okay, should be 2018 to say. So the question states the diagram below shows okay, study the diagram below and answer the question that follow. So we have this type of outward blow of wind. So here on the center there is high pressure. Okay, and then outside there we have the wind blowing out. So what type of a cyclone is this one? Is it anticyclone or cyclone? So let's look at the question. So the diagram shows so this is this particular cyclone is flowing in a clockwise direction. So this is clockwise. Okay, so try to see clockwise. That is clockwise. Okay, when the particular wind is blowing to the right, so this is clockwise. So this is an anticyclone. Okay, anticyclone in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so in the northern hemisphere there is clockwise direction there. Okay, so review the first pages. So in the northern hemisphere there is the clockwise direction. So if you see from here, okay, look at this. Okay, when we are moving to the northern hemisphere there is clockwise direction. Okay, so there is clockwise. So the particular cyclone flows in a clockwise direction. So this is an anticyclone. So the anticyclone flows in a clockwise direction. So that's what we have for this one. Okay, so our answer there is C. Then let's look at 2016. So in 2016 there the examiner went on to state, study the diagram below showing the air and an air pressure system and answer the questions that follow. So here we have this one. I'm so sure you are able now to identify that this is the anticyclone in a clockwise direction, okay? So we are moving toward the right. The wind pressure is moving toward the right. So this is the anticyclone. So the wind is coming from the point of the high pressure to this point where there is low pressure. If you look at the pressure outside is lower. So if they ask which one of the following system represents is represented by the above diagram. So we can say this is the anticyclone, okay? The anticyclone in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so it's going to the northern hemisphere, just like the previous one. So if you look at the previous one, they are just the same, okay? So this one is going to the northern hemisphere. Even this one here is going to the northern hemisphere, okay? So let's look at this other question. So this other question is coming from 2015 October, okay? So the examiner went on to state, study the diagram below. So we have the particular inward of air, okay? So we have to know that this is a cyclone. Now, what type of flow is this one, okay? So let's try to look at the type of flow. So this type of flow is anti-clockwise because the particular cyclone is going opposite to the direction of the clock, this side, okay? So this side, when the cyclone is going this side, this is anticlockwise from this dimension, okay? So we have anticlockwise flow. So in anticlockwise flow, then that should be in the particular southern hemisphere. So the cyclone is in the southern hemisphere because in the southern hemisphere, that's where we have the anticlockwise flow. Okay, if we look at the first page there, okay? So our answer there is B, and then we can move, we come to an end of the video. So please, dear viewers, watch through this video. Okay, so if there is any comments or anything, please, you want tuitions, you can write in the comment section, okay, and then from there I'll be able to pick up the particular query, okay, or anything that is relating to the subject matter. Okay, so thank you for watching. Have a blessed day.